11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think Canelo won it.
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
Thanks to those joining me live and those that will join us here on the archive. D-Style here, but joined by my co-host Calix, and we have the one and the only Oscar Valdez. How's it going, brother? How you doing?
All good, man. All good, brother. Over here just relaxing on a good Sunday after a long week of a good workout. So we're pretty good and happy right now.
Awesome. Now, we had Liam Wilson on about a week and a half ago. He saw that intro. He said it pumped him up. He said, and he talked about wanting to be in classic fights. His heroes are actually like Morales, Barrera, Marquez. And he wants to be part of a classic fight. I still remember your interview before the Navarrete fight, saying you want to be in a classic like that. Is that something you would welcome with Liam Wilson?
For sure, 100%. We share the same idols. We share the same styles as far as what we want for the fans, which is good fights, But styles make fights. So I'm only hoping that, the best version of Leon Wilson, that version that I saw him against Vaquero Navarrete. I was there when he fought him. I was there when he sent him to the canvas. A lot of people thought that he should have won the fight because he had him very, very hurt. So I know Leon Wilson's a tough fighter. I got nothing but respect for him as a fighter, as a person. But I'm working very hard because this fight, it all comes to who wants it the most. Who wants it the most? Who's working harder? Who has the bigger heart inside the ring? And better believe that I'm coming with everything. I'm hungrier than ever. I know what it takes. I know what it feels like to be a world champion, to have multiple defense in divisions, and I know what it is. And I miss that. I miss being a champion. I miss that feeling proud of myself being the campeón. And this is my opportunity to go back in there again. We know whoever wins this fight is a step closer to a world title fight. So whoever wins is a step closer. Whoever loses will take a couple of steps back, which will make them even harder to come back in the game. So this fight means all or nothing for me. I'm very focused, and we've been doing a heck of a job in the gym. Eddie Reynoso, Don Carlos Barragan. I've got a great team. My manager, Frank Espinosa. And everything, camp has gone well, and I just can't wait. I'm very anxious for this fight. Like you said, I was surprised to hear that Leon Wilson, his idols are someone like Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, because those are my idols too. We grew up watching them, and I've always wanted it to be somewhat similar to them when it comes to being that warrior, that guy that gives it all inside the ring. And better believe that, that dream is still on, and I'm gonna give it my best to one day inspire the new generation like Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera inspired myself.
Now, I want to ask you, were you more of a Morales guy or Barrera guy, or were you just like both, or what?
No, I got to be honest, even though because I'm very cool with both of them. I'm very...
Oh, I think he froze up. You could hear me, right, Alex?
I hear you perfect.
Oh, we apologize. You froze it for a second. Can you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I gotta be honest with that. Even though I was a big fan of both of them, when it came to them to fight, I was Eddie Morales fan. Okay. I was more on that side, and I had to one day confess to Marco Antonio Barrera because it didn't sit down with me. Just me sitting down having dinner with him and his wife, and I was like, man,
I love it.
Find out that I was always rooting for Eddie Morales, so I had to tell him, when I was a kid, even though I was rooting for you every time you used to fight anybody else. When it was time to fight Eddie Morales, I was Eddie Morales fan. He understands the whole thing, and it was just I just had to confess that to him because he's such a great guy. I admire him more as a person once I got to meet him. Marco Barrera is just a great person, a great friend who mentors me. Sometimes he goes on. We go back and forth on messages, and he tells me how to think inside the ring, and gives me one or two things as tips for my next fights.
Speaking of Barrera, he's a great example of someone who had setbacks, and he came back when people didn't expect him to come back, like against Nassim Hamed, for example, and just put on great performances. So he's definitely a guy that has come back several times. Morales as well. So look, Liam did tell us he's going to step to you. He's not going to be hard to find. I'm sure that's music to your ears.
Kind of froze down a little bit, no?
No, can you hear me?
Froze a little bit of what you were saying.
All right. Okay, so can you hear me right now?
I hear you perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so basically he told us he's going to step to you. He's not going to be hard to find. I'm sure that's music to your ears. You've had a lot of. I admire you for the tough opponents you've had recently because they're tough, like tough to beat, but they're also tough to have a classic. It's kind of hard to look good against, even if you win. I think this is going to be an opportunity for you to have a great fight, and if you win, have a great performance in the process as well. Is that something you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm just looking forward to winning the fight, no matter what, because my main goal for this year is to become a world champion. That's the number one thing. But I'm always there to give the fans what they want. I truly say that. Truly say that with the bottom of my heart because I was inspired by these great fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez and Marco Barrera. We already mentioned these type of fighters, and I always wanted to do what they did. And they gave the people what they want. They didn't go into the ring to out jab their opponent, to move around and just throw a couple of punches and use that footwork when it comes to just moving around, just win round by round. We want to give the fans what they want. And what if people want? They want to give a war, a toe-to-toe fight, a battle inside that ring. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. I can move. I can use that jab. I have a Olympic background. I can use my footwork. Yeah. But sometimes inside the ring, I feel so committed to my fans that I want to, let's just show who has a bigger heart. Let's go in there and just throw it down. And that's something that hasn't worked in my favor, but a lot of times it does. And one of the things that happened in my last fight that I lost fair and square. It was very upsetting for me. It was it broke my heart. It broke me down. And I was so hurt the fact that things didn't go my way. I didn't want to go out the streets. I didn't want to go out my house. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I you couldn't see my eye. My face was just beat up. I was very ashamed and embarrassed. And give it about 2 weeks, I just started going outside again, seeing other people, my friends. And for the first time, I started seeing people literally walk up to me and saying, gracias, thank you. And they were saying, thank you for giving your best, for giving the effort, trying, because they would tell me, we saw you giving that effort, trying to win. Even though you didn't win, we saw the effort you did. So thank you. And that was weird to me because I never got that one before. Thank you for the effort. And that picked me up. There was the boxing community fans are one of the hardest to convince. But the ones who really stick with you, they're hardcore fans. And for those, man, I will always be grateful. For those guys, I will always be grateful because they picked me up. They picked me up from that simple thank you for giving my best. So by that, just right now I'm just hungry right now to come back strong and go for my dream, which is to become a world champion this year. But for that, I gotta beat Leon Wilson, which I know is not an easy fight. He's a tough fighter, but I don't think he wants it more than I do, man. I want this like nothing else. You gotta want it as much as you want to breathe, as you want to, do anything in life. And one thing that I know about myself is that I'm one dedicated fighter. Discipline is one thing that I always have on my mind, and I've never had any problems as far as discipline. So that's one thing that I know I'm achieve for this fight.
Well, what can you tell us about the Navarrete fight? Like going in and being in there with him, like how different was it from what you when you watch him and actually being in the ring with him?
Well, one thing for sure, his style is unique. It's you may look at him, see shadow box or hit the bag, and you might think, wow, this guy's a novice. He does not know how to throw a punch. But on the contrary, he might not throw that little beautiful jab or the beautiful right hand or uppercut, but it's effective and it lands, which is that's the most important thing, the landing part. And he has a volume puncher. He hits pretty hard, and he's one of those guys that doesn't stop throwing and carries a big punch and lands his shot. That's the main thing. Doesn't matter how he throws it, he lands, and it's very hard to explain. It's very hard to get a sparring partner that mimics him, and so that caught me off guard in the fight. His awkwardness made me see sometimes that I almost had him, and then it will slip off my hands.
Yeah.
I try to use this perfect example. It's like if a baseball player sees a perfect pitch just coming at him, and you say, "Here we go. Here's the home run," and you swing, you miss. That's the same way I will feel when Vaquero Navarrete. His face was somewhere where I was like, "Oh, it's right here," and I will load up on my punches to land that knockout for the fans, to give the fans what they want. I started losing game plan and looking for that knockout because I will see it right there soon. And all of a sudden, it will go away. It will go away. His awkwardness wasn't making me able to land my shot. So I take my hat off to someone like Vaquero because it just shows that, you can see one thing, you can be sitting right here and watching the TV and say, oh, that guy is a bum. Oh, that guy is this. I could beat him. But nobody's in there in the ring except for those two fighters. So a lot of people who say, oh, what happened? Why'd you lose? It's like, you win some, you lose some. The other opponent also is training hard, and the other opponent is also studying you as well. So, in my case, man, there's no excuses. Shakur beat me well, Vaquero beat me well. So you just gotta take it in the chin sometimes. It hurts. It hurts us fighters. It hurts our soul, our ego. But you just gotta, that's life. Sometimes you don't always win in life. You win some, you lose some. You go down to the canvas, you get up, and you continue your career to do best. But I want to be that perfect example, like you mentioned earlier. Marco Barrera had losses. Yeah. Julio Cesar Chavez had losses. Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, Manny Pacquiao. All these fighters lost.
Yep.
And none of us in the boxing community, the real boxing guys, know that they were all legends. They're all legends. They're all warriors. So I want to be one of those examples. Maybe I had a loss with Shakur. I had a loss with Vaquero. But, that just made me stronger and to not give up. Because if you listen to what people say, people, like I said before, boxing fans are the hardest, are the hardest to convince. You win, and everyone praises you. You lose, you're a bum, retired, you're no good. Every time, you post something and somebody's going, oh yeah, but you got beat by Shakur, which, it's not a lie. You lost. But the point of that is that when you lose, a lot of these fans turn their back on you and they turn very quick. So I want to be that example. Not because you lose means you're done in the sport. You can continue fighting and continue doing big things. And there's a lot of great examples out there. Yeah, I got a perfect example. Nonito Nair, almost 40 years old, is still fighting that elite level. Almost beat one of our pound-for-pound champions, which was Inoue. So there's these exceptions, and I want to be one of these exceptions that has longevity in the sports while being disciplined and just taking the best fights. I'm not looking for easy fights. That's why we took this fight. When I got offered a fight with Leo Wilson, I was like, all right, it's a tough fight, but I want it. I'm not looking for easy fights. I'm looking for opportunities, and this is another opportunity for me to rise in my career.
You talked about something, you hit on this, and it's a weird culture in boxing in the boxing world that's different than other sports, because in every sport you have losses, and for some reason in American boxing culture, it's keep the O. And it has to be frustrating as a fighter who fights many different awkward styles and fights tough fights to see other guys protect the O and get on pound for pound list based off of the eye test. But as boxing fans, we want to see more fighters take tough fights. And you talked about being surprised when you got back out after a couple weeks after your loss and meeting fans that said, hey, good job. it shouldn't be a surprising thing, right? To fighters that, hey, losses happen, right?
And it shouldn't be like that. But that's one of the reasons why other fighters don't want to fight the best with the
Yeah.
best, because they know how much a loss will affect your career. It will be marked forever. It will stay with you no matter what. Till the day I die, there will always be that. Yeah, he lost against Shakur. So that's why a lot of fighters won't fight the best. But I think that's changing. I think that style got very popular when the Floyd Mayweather era,
Mm.
because he protected his undefeated record. And a lot of people think he was undefeated because he had a controversial fight with Jose Luis Castillo, but that undefeated record protecting, being the best ever, calling himself the best ever, it got so popular that now other fighters want to mimic that. But now what happened to the guys like Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvelous Hagler, all these great champions had losses and with each other as well. And they had rematches. Sometimes they would win the other one, and they were all warriors. But nowadays, it got very popular. But I can see a switch slowly changing. I can slowly see a Shakur really wanting to fight someone like Devin Haney. I guess now the Terrence Crawford fought Errol Spence, that show that kind of broke the chain a bit. The best are starting to fight the best. And so I can see boxing shifting into a better era where the best do fight the best. But it is a risk for fighters, because we know how much boxing fans might turn on you if you lose, and that sometimes it's very unfortunate. But because we work very hard to have what we have, to build our legacy. I've been fighting ever since I was 8 years old. I had 2-time Olympians. In my background, I have a great amateur background. 11 years professional, and now it's like, oh, okay, what have I done? And the one thing that I've heard this before in boxing, you're only as good as your last performance. So what does that say? My whole boxing career is out the window. But then my last fight, I got beaten. So I guess I'm a loser. That's what that by that term, you're only as good as your last fight. So I refuse to think that way. I refuse to think that way. I'm always a positive person, and not just in boxing, in life. Whatever goes wrong, I'm very optimistic. There's always a chance to get back, and if there's a problem, there's a solution. Always think about that. I'm always thinking positive about me and my family, and how to make us all better as a person, as a species. But that applies also in the sport. In the sport, I got to take it as much as positive as I can. All these losses. So, like I said before, we're not asking for easy fights. We're not asking for easy name. We're looking for opportunities. Whatever opportunities presented, then I'll gladly take it, because I want to be considered one of the best. Like the names I've always mentioned, like my idols.
You talked about opportunities. You also talked about wanting to be a champion again by the end of the year. So Shock Foster, after his fight with Abraham Nova, mentioned the winner of you versus Liam Wilson, being his possible next opponent. He's with Top Rank now, and we don't want to disrespect Liam Wilson, look past that. But if that opportunity presents itself later in the year, a Shock Foster fight, would that be the natural next step for you?
For sure, 100%. I'll tell you. I'm not looking for, because I never say these things, because fighters need to be conscious. One mistake that a lot of fighters do is think about another fight when they got a fight in front of them,
Right.
and that's a big mistake. That's a big mistake, because you can never overestimate no opponent. Every opponent out there is dangerous. Even guys who are not complete boxers, like Tyson Fury when he fought what's his name,
Ngannou?
Ngannou. There's always that risk. So he's not a boxer. There's some type of risk. What happens to a fighter who's actually preparing himself, like someone like Leo Wilson? So I don't mention never names when I have a fighter in front of me, especially someone like Leon Wilson. But like I said before, if I get offered that opportunity, whatever opportunity out there is, I would gladly take it, because there are opportunities, man. If you're not shooting for the stars, if you're not shooting to be the best, then what are we doing here in the sport? We're looking for the bigger and better things. So that's what I've been doing. I've been chasing my dream the same way I've been chasing my dream ever since I was 8 years old. I've always wanted to be a champion. I always wanted to be this type of fighter that I am right now, and I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I have one more boxing question for you real quick, and then a non-boxing question for later on. But your work with, you're obviously friends with Canelo, been in the gym with him. How has that rubbed off on you as a fighter?
Good. I mean, like I said before, I'm very optimistic. I take the good, and whenever it's bad, I try to not to pay attention to it. Or just throw it out the window, because Canelo does get a lot of backlash. But that's one guy. If I could pick and choose from each and every person, if I could choose speed, I would take it from Sugar Ray Leonard. If I could take a power shot, I would take it from Edwin Valero. If I could take a chin, I would take it from Julio Cesar Chavez. If I could take something from Canelo, it would be his mindset. The way he just so cold in that mind, the way he focused on just that person was just, for me, I'm so focused in the fight that I don't care what I'm dressed. I don't care what I'm dressed. I don't care about my shoes. I don't care what song gonna come out. I gotta be very focused on the fight. As far as Canelo, he's so dominant here in the mind that he makes a show when he comes out. He has a singer. He has it, and that doesn't bother him at all. He does not lose his game plan in one bit in his mind. I've talked to him before sparrings, and when he says, "I'm gonna do this, and that." And when I see him inside the ring, I see him bobbing and weaving. Now he getting hit, not one shot, and then he'll make this one thing up. He just looks and he'll say like, "I got you." And he does his movement, boom, hits him. So it's like, wow, this guy's his mindset, his ring IQ is another level as far as like how concentrated he could be and how believes in himself and his abilities. So that's one thing that I always try to get for someone like Canelo. But how's that run me? I could just say nothing but positive things, because if there's someone in the gym that who has experience, it would be Canelo. Even though we're the same age, me and Canelo are the same age. He's got a lot more experience than me. What I got as a professional over 10 years is what he has as a champion. Only he turned pro at 15 years old.
Right.
So he has a lot of experience. Faced Floyd, he faced Cotto, the Great Mosley, Bivol, whatever. There's a lot of these guys, and it's like, okay, different styles. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Even though we're different weight classes, he's got the knowledge as far as with experience inside that ring, and I've shared the gym with a lot of great fighters. With Panta Panetti, Rey Martinez, Cosito Velasquez, Andy Ruiz. There was a time where Ryan was in there with us, and it's you can, out of all these guys, you can see why Canelo is the Canelo right now, because he fought on a Saturday, and while I was still in the gym, he just rested Sunday, and Monday he was back in the gym with me, and I had to tell him, man, like, what else? This was the time I think we fought Billy Joe Saunders, and at the time and disputing, and now what else? I keep on asking, well.
What, you froze up? Can you hear us, Oscar?
I hear you. It froze a little bit. Or what?
Yeah, he froze a little bit.
Yeah, so I just had to ask him that question. Well, what's next? Like, you conquered all. You got all the money. You got the fame. You got all the titles. You got a beautiful wife, or you're married. You got the kids. You live in what many people would think is the glory life. It's the way to do it. You got success. He said, so something is always going to pop up. So that made me think of us mortals. If he doesn't feel comfortable, what happens to us? So, yeah, he's different. He's different right here in the mentality. He's cold-minded person.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a non-boxing question for you, and I'll bounce it off the super chat. HLD, appreciate the super chat, $5. But he calls you the Ace Ventura with all your animals. I'm from South Louisiana, born and raised, and we're swamps, swamps everywhere. Like, it's not uncommon for me to walk out on my property, alligators on the golf course, alligators everywhere. We have as many alligators as people in Louisiana. So I wanted to ask you this. I always said if I ever talked to Oscar Valdez, I would ask this question. How does a dude from your area end up with a pet alligator? Because for us, we have them everywhere. We're so used to them that we just coexist with them. But how did you end up with one?
Man, so I got to go back up. I've always, when I was a kid, man, I wasn't the type of kid that would actually watch cartoons. I would watch Animal Planet. Animal Planet was a thing for me. My idol at the time was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. So, I just loved watching animals. A lizard will pass by back outside my house, and I would actually chase it, try to chase a road runner. just I'll see like a little cardinal on the fence and just stare at it. And I've always been impressed by animals. I've always been an animal lover since I was a little kid. And one day I was in Mexico City, and there was this. I was walking towards this plaza, and there was a lot of animals, fishes. I used to always walk in the animal stores, and there was a little gator, and I thought it was fake. I was like, "What the heck? Is that for real?" I've always been fanatic of gators and crocodiles and serpents and anacondas, and very very fanatic towards reptiles in general. So I remember I was gonna poke it, and it moves, and I got scared. Oh man! But I said, "Oh, is this for sale?" Like, yeah, it's, I believe at the time it was like $75, and I was like, "Man, it's a
That's a steal, right?
deal for me." And then I'm like, "Man, I just bought it unresponsibly because I don't know what I wasn't prepared at the time. Luckily, things went my way as a boxer, and I had my lifestyle and boxing and money and a little bit of over time. By the time it was growing, it had just been the time when I started making a couple of bucks to actually buy a little property there, and now it's just my ranch. And
Give it a second.
I got back on it.
Yes, we're back on.
You good
Because
now.
if not, I would have bought it, and it would have grown in this fish tank, which is very sad for these animals to grow like that. So I can honestly, it was very irresponsible at the time for me, but I'm just lucky enough that I followed my dream, and now I was able to afford a property and to afford having not only my gator Steve, but all my other animals. My horses, my pigs, my goats, and a lot more animals that I have in my ranch. So yeah, I'm truly blessed, man, because I do what I love. I love boxing. This is my hobby. It's my sport. I have no problem being in the gym. I have no problem making it my diet and lifestyle. And my hobby is to be back home with my family and my animals. I'm not a type of person that likes to travel a lot. I don't like that, going to Vegas, to going to Dubai, all those that type of things, to Hawaii, whatever.
Mhm.
Me, I'm very happy at my home. I'm a home guy. Stay back home with my animals, my ranch, my family. Do some carne asadas the weekends with my family, and a simple lifestyle. And like I said, I feel blessed to have my family, to have a dream job, which is my job is my hobby, boxing, and to have my animals. The, I trust them more than a lot of people out there. They show a lot of love. They show affection, and especially my parrots, my dog, my horses, and sometimes even my gator. He shows if I put my hand, he's gonna bite me. You know that he's gonna bite you. When it comes to humans, you don't know how they're gonna react. They
Yeah.
might put that fake smile like they're your friend, and no, that they turn around, and they once you lose or once you're not no use for them, they just
Mm.
let you go. So a lot of these animals, man, I feel blessed to have all my animals and to have everything that I have right now present, health, family, and everything in general.
For sure, for sure. I want to give a shout out to Mantis. He says, Valdez, I first saw you at the Stub Hub. Love your professionalism and work ethic. One of my favorites. Keep doing your thing. Saludos. And shout out to Liza as well for the sport.
Thank you.
So now I know you said earlier about how you had to confess to Barrera that you were a Morales guy. So I had to do a confession. So I thought Bershal was going to beat you, right? And,
Yeah,
and so did a lot of people. But
fair. That's fair.
and at the end of the day, you not only did you win, you dominated that
Ooh.
fight. I thought that was a great performance. Um, does that still stand like for you, like your top achievement at the moment, or right now?
Yes, it's got to be between that one and my third title defense in 126 when I fought Scott Quick. Actually, today will be
Okay.
6 years when I fought someone like Scott Quick because going back again when I was a kid, I grew up watching these great fighters and the Mexican fans especially. You can have speed that checks. You can have power that checks. You can have good head movement, boom, checks. You have chin, pop, check. You can have everything checked in that list as a fighter. But if you don't have that last one check, as far as having the guts and the heart and everything, what you call that little gut or heart or whatever you want to call it, warrior. If you don't have that one, they might not. You're not accepted. You're not accepted in
Right.
their best fighters like Raton Macias, Finito Lopez, Juan Manuel Marquez. You got to have that last one. And when I fought Scott Quigg, there was always that, Oscar Valdez is good, but Oscar Valdez is good, pero he needs this. And when I fought that fight and then we won, I felt I got my last check. And I started for the first time after that fight, I started hearing people say, Oscar Valdez es un guerrero. Oscar Valdez is a warrior. Oscar Valdez has heart. Oscar Valdez is not going to give up. And it's like, wow, finally. It felt like I graduated. It felt like I graduated and I finally made it as far as in here in my heart as a fighter. Like, okay, now we're in. Now we're in the point where in my own self, like my own critical small 8-year-old Oscar Valdez, that's one thing that needed to be checked. And I convinced my younger self. So that fight made it very important. Even though, Rashad fight, it's got to be the best one in my career, but my one personal one, it's got to be this one, Scott Quigg, as well, because it just had that last check mark. And even though, like I thought, it's a toss up between which one, that one or Rashad, because like you just said, man, I swear to God, I don't take it in a bad way when they say, "Oh, I thought Rashad was gonna beat me." That's different from where a lot of my idols and a lot of experts were saying that he's gonna win or we're rooting for him, which was that hurt me when I heard a lot of people was like, I was rooting for him, like, oh man, I thought you were my friend. I thought you were rooting for him. But when you think someone's gonna beat you, that's different. Like I'll put a perfect examples. If Pacquiao were to fight, I don't know, one of my friends, I would say, man, I'm rooting for you as a friend, but I think Manny Pacquiao is gonna beat you. And so I understand as fighters where a lot of people will say, we thought, Brazil's going to beat me because the height advantage, this and that, knockouts. And there was a point in camp where I started believing that, where I was like, man, the odds are 8-1. Man, is it like that? Then I would slap myself, imagining, no way, I refuse. I refuse to think. I refuse to get that in my mind what other people are saying. So I've always been that type of person that says I refuse to, because they've got it wrong before. When I got my jaw broken by Scott Quigg, they said I was never going to be the same. They said that I was going to be touched. That every little punch was going to send me to the canvas. And I refused to believe that. And the best came after that fight. Then they said Michelle was going to beat me, and this and that, and then I win. I refuse to believe that, and then I win. I prove people wrong. And then now that I was going to fight Vaquero Navarrete, the odds were that I was favored 4-1, something like that.
Right.
So I end up losing. So that always applies on what the odds, whatever the odds are. As a fighter, you got to forget about that. You can't be thinking about just because the odds are 8-1 means you're going to win. No, you gotta visualize yourself, because even though I was 4-1 favorite, I still lost. I lost fair square against someone like Vaquero. So I focused to myself. Started meditating, started focusing and just visualizing and concentrating more than ever before, because you could only train so hard. We train hard for each and every fight, but you got to add something different to the whole package of a fighter. So now I had these are thinking more, sticking to the game plan.
Right. Well, two more things. One, and you put it perfectly. That was my next question, but you already put it perfectly. So I want to ask you this: do you prefer to go in as an underdog, as a favorite, or do you just not care?
I do not care. That's the one thing. The whole point of that what I was saying, it was the fact that you just got to not care what people say, and not care what the odds are, not care about, because they've gotten it wrong before. If you're a person who lies a lot, and you tell me something, and you say, hey, it's raining outside, well, I'm gonna have to go check outside because I don't believe you. And if you're a liar, you tell me something. Do you believe that guy because he's a liar? So when it comes to people telling you things, like, do you believe them or do you believe yourself? So I believe myself. It doesn't matter what the odds are. It doesn't matter whether. What I do know is when I've had my back against the wall, I fought harder, and that's part of one of the 48 laws of power. Never fight someone whose back's against the wall because you're gonna fight tougher. You're gonna fight with everything. You're gonna die in that part. So right now, I feel like my back's against the corner. You know, I think it's a career-defining fight. Whoever wins gets a step close to a world title fight. So I believe I'm coming with everything. Coming with everything for this fight.
Look, Leon Wilson looked up to Mexican fighters. You looked up to an animal guy from Australia. It's almost meant to be. You know what I mean? So I can't wait for.
Good point.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. I know he's motivated. He told us he wouldn't have it any other way. Going back to that same arena where he tasted his second defeat actually to Navarrete, and now he'll be facing you in that same arena. Actually, that arena is becoming something. Yeah. Hopefully, it's a great fight. One last thing, Oscar, if you want to, any message, because they're going to see this, Team Wilson will see this. Any message you want to give to Leon Wilson?
Nothing at all, man. Just hope the best. Let's give the fans what they want. A good fight. That's the most important thing. Let God be with you, and let's get out the ring healthy wise and with good health. But let's give the fans what they want. A good fight.
There we go. And we appreciate, I know you're a busy guy. You're enjoying, go ahead and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We appreciate your time, Oscar.
No problem, brother. Anytime.
God bless.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too, brother.
Right, the one and the only Oscar Valdez, Galax. Okay, we heard from the man, and there it is, bro. I mean, I'm excited for this fight, bro. Like, I think that's the fight of the weekend to me. Yep. That weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
No offense to Keith Thurman. I don't think Thurman has a shot against him. So, like,
I don't either. That's the fight. That's the fight I have circled on the March calendar as well. Several of them, but that's one of them. And Liam Wilson's game, but Oscar is the favorite for a reason, more seasoned, and he's hungry to be champion again. So it's gonna be one hell of a fight. That much I know.
All right. Now, quick shout out to Liza. I appreciate la mejor de la suerte para la próxima pelea. Team Valdez en las buenas y en las malas. So there you go. Team Valdez always in the good and the bad. Shout out to HLD. It says, a warrior, un guerrero is the first thing that comes to mind when I hear Oscar Valdez's name. Puro chingazos, cabrones. Makes proud to be Mexican, even though soy boricua. So there you go. All right, I mean, man, hey, look, let me tell you something.
I'm not even Mexican, and he's making me proud to be Mexican.
There's a lot more I wanted to dive into with the Canelo thing and he didn't bring up Canelo in this context, but we talked to Roberto Diaz, and Canelo's a perfect example of the current ambassador of the sport that has 2 losses. And it doesn't matter. It literally, the Bivol fight did not hurt him at all when it comes to his status in the sport. And there's no reason why a loss should hurt Valdez. If you keep stepping in there with the best fighters in the world, you are going to take losses, and that's okay. And we got to get out of that mentality, because I do believe a lot of the gridlock that we have is fighters not wanting to take chances, not because they're scared of another fighter, but maybe they're worried what their marketability is going to be if they lose that O, right?
Yeah, and they have people in their ear. I'm sure managers are telling them, hold your position, play the eye test game. And that's why I asked them that specifically, because to me, it's unfair to the fighters who are fighting the fights such as him. He's a perfect example of it, right? Katse Sal. Who's going to go out of their way to fight Katse Sal, right? You saw that in the Navarrete fight. Them fighting Navarrete and hearing him talk about how awkward he is and how he can land big punches and meaningful punches even off his back foot and throwing them from weird angles, and then fighting the best fighter, one of the 2 best fighters in the sport statistically from the defensive angle, in Shakur Stevenson. Nobody goes out of their way to fight those 3 fights, but he does, right? So that's why I'm excited to see him in this fight. with Liam Wilson, because it's one of those fights where those two guys aren't going to have to find each other, and they're going to be right there, and it's going to be a war, right? And for Oscar Valdez, he wants to run through him like he ran through Burchelt and get to his title fight later in the year, right? But that's why I asked him that specifically, because it's frustrating for us as boxing fans to see fighters go for it and test themselves and maybe fall short. And that happens in every sport, right? Every sport, somebody loses and then the next week they come back, right? Or the next couple of days later, come back. For boxing, it should be the same. If you take it, if you have a test, tough fight, and you lose the fight, hey, maybe we see this guy 6 to 8 months and he's back, and we'll support him because he fought the fight. And I'm glad to hear him say he got back out after a couple weeks after the never that they lost, and people are thanking him, because that's what I would do as a boxing fan. That's what you would do as a boxing fan, right? Like, if somebody takes a tough fight and they fall short, hey, thank you for taking the tough fight. Thank you. Now more than ever, right? Because we're so used to seeing guys take the safe route.
And here's the thing. It's not just that, obviously taking a fight in itself deserves praise, but it's also how you lose, right? Like he didn't stop trying in that fight.
Yeah.
And no one could say, oh, well, let's stop trying. No, he kept trying. And even though you could tell, like, it must have been painful, you could almost see him wincing, you know, at some points in the fight, the effort was always there. You know what I mean? And I cannot say more than enough good things. By the way, shout out to those watching on X, 53 of you, and those on YouTube as well. Total of 89 viewers right now. We appreciate the support, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
And one last thing, maybe he's right about maybe we're turning a corner and getting out of this sort of Mayweather stench of boxing, the late stage Mayweather, right, of protecting the O. Maybe he's right about that, because when you see Mel get a shot at Canelo and he's in survival mode, right, and he's just coasting, you see how people react to that, right? And it's not good. It's not good. So I hope we continue to praise the warriors when they do fight their fights, because when you do fight those type of fights and that type of style, your career naturally gets a little shorter. So I hope we enjoy these fighters when they're around and praise them for giving us the entertainment that we deserve as boxing fans.
100%. Shout out to Remy. One night before you go, Calix. Calix, have you found gators in your pool?
I have not, but we've had gators in our ponds.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, it's that's why I wanted to ask him that.
Calix has his own ponds.
And look,
rich life.
I'm glad you brought up that angle that Liam Wilson looks up to Mexican fighters, and then Oscar Valdez looks up to Steve Irwin. Yeah. It's just a weird angle, right? But I always wanted to ask that, because I was like, how did that dude end up with a gator from the West? Because there's no gators out there, but we have them everywhere. For people who don't know, Louisiana, we have almost as many gators as we do people here. And you got over 1 million farm gators, so people just raise gators like that, like he's doing out there. People just raise them and harvest them. So it's not an odd thing. I just always wondered that, because it's not uncommon for us to be walking around and just gators around. And wow, as odd as it is, we coexist with them fine, because there's only been one fatality on record from an alligator in recorded history in Louisiana. Wow. So it's just an odd thing to see somebody with a gator out there. But I've seen him, Valdez. There's video of him swimming in his pool with the gator. So
that's crazy.
I mean,
right?
we swim in the bayous there's gators around. So it's not a weird thing, but I guess people see that and they're like, good Lord.
Never like strike.
Not here.
We're just so a different breed. You know?
I think they're just so used to us being around, and then we're so used to them being around that
we must taste like shit, right? Like we must have human meat must taste like shit.
The only recorded one in history is 2021 after there's a Hurricane Ida. A dude, like, rest in peace. He's 15 minutes from my house. Went to check by his dock after the hurricane, check his dock, and a 500-pound alligator, 12 foot, got him. Swallowed him whole, basically. They cut the alligator open. Geez. He was in there. Because that's what they're capable of, but people are so used to having them around, and alligators so used to people around that it's just
Yeah,
coexist.
I think we just I say we as if I live there. I don't even live there, but like if they might like El Paso meat, so I probably don't even try that. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
they might like Mexican meat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Lalo Ruiz, saludos de Atlanta, buen canal de boxeo y buena suerte a Team Valdez. He says great channel and good luck to Team Valdez. Calix,
And I can stick around for about 10 more minutes if you got.
okay, we're good. Okay, cool. Look, this is and we know like Australians are tough, bro. Like these tough Australian fighters, like they're gonna fight tooth and nail with you. We know how Mexican fighter fights. It's impossible for this not to be a good fight.
I know.
This fight is gonna be it's gonna be a fight of the year candidate, if not the fight of the year, in my opinion. I think, and it might end by knockout. Like this is gonna be. We might see some knockdowns here. And here's the thing. And I didn't have a chance to ask him this, but Liam Wilson's such a big dude. He made Navarrete look small, right? And remember how Navarrete made Valdez look, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be not like Vargas ball levels, but there's going to be a notable high difference, right? And it's going to be interesting. It's going to make. I think we're going to see a lot of good inside fighting, and then Valdez working the ring. It's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and here's the thing to say about Valdez once again is he's fought awkward guys. So this is going to be one of those fights where he's going to have somebody in front of him and he's going to look good. I think we're going to get more of it's going to look more of like the Valdez that fought Berchelt, right? Is people after he beat Berchelt, we're talking about a top 10 pound for pound guy at that point. Somewhere right on the outside, people were starting to talk about him on pound for pound lists at that point, right outside of it, right? Is sometimes it could be deceptive based on the styles. These are tough styles. Like Conceição is tough. That's a tough style. We saw it in the Navarrete fight when they fought. Navarrete is a tough style. Shakur is a tough style. It's impossible win or lose to look good against those guys. So I think people are grading Valdez a little harsh at this point. And then maybe it's even reflected in the betting odds that Valdez may be looking at this as, it's kind of disrespectful that people are looking at this as close to a toss-up type of fight, right? 3-1, 4-1, whatever it is. And I should be a heavier favorite. So he's going to have an opportunity to prove that. And if he looks great in this fight, D-style, and he gets the O'Shake Foster fight later in the year, then we've got ourselves something. But Liam Wilson obviously is going to have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, Liam Wilson has a lot to say about that. And for Liam, it's redemption, right? It's going back to Glendale, to that same arena. Valdez's mind is a little different, obviously. Valdez is a former world champion trying to get back there again, and Wilson's trying to achieve that. So their paths are similar but very different, and it's going to be very interesting. And one thing that stood out to me is Valdez saying it's going to come down to who wants it more. I don't think he wants it more. Liam Wilson's going to have a lot to say about that. Like, you know what I mean?
Valdez, I'm looking up the betting odds now. Valdez minus 430. And the most likely scenario, according to Vegas, is Valdez winning by decision, which is minus territory. And Valdez by KO is the second most likely scenario.
That's going to be it's going to be a good fight, I think. I can't wait. And shout out to Team Zoo over there. Glenn Jennings has this going on. And then there's a little bit of a Zoo Canelo dynamic here because they're each in their training camps, and they may not be training like at the same time or something, but they're running into these fighters, right? Like Liam's over there feeding off that energy of Tim Tszyu. Valdez obviously feeding off the energy of Canelo. It's going to be very interesting here. One last thing, Calix. So, because I was going to talk about this. Just to kind of close, I want to just get closure from this Ngannou AJ thing, so we can all just move on. I don't know if you saw Dana White's reaction. Some will say it's petty, but I understand where he's coming from, right? So someone asked him, "Did you see the fight?" He said, "Yeah, I saw it, just like everyone else. I saw the highlights, just like everyone else did." And they asked him what he think, and he basically said, "If Tyson Fury trained for that fight, that was going to happen. This is what happens when an
Yeah.
MMA fighter goes to boxing,
Mhm.
right?" And he says, "You know how I feel about, cross." He basically made it very clear we're not in the fight, cross promotional, whatever you want to call it. I forgot the term.
Crossover fight.
Crossover. I'm sorry. Fights here. We're not in that business. We know what happens if the MMA fighter goes over there and vice versa. Let's keep it moving. I like that. I love the fact that the head guy of the head promotional company in the other sport is against it. Let me just, and people are gonna. I know Ariel Helwani's done it. Or you had CM Punk fight in the UFC. You had James Toney, but he's basically saying we already know the outcomes. We're moving on, and I think that's a good thing. That's number one. Okay. Okay. Second, I will say I understand where they're coming from with it because they can't set a precedent with every time a guy wins a UFC title, he's a striker, and then I want to go fight. I want to get more money over there in the boxing world, and
Right.
because that affects their business model. Like they don't have time for that. So they're going to put everything on hold so this one guy could go get a lot more money in the boxing world, and then maybe gets knocked out. And no matter how, it still affects their brand from their perspective. So one, I'm glad that the one side. Do you think, Calix, now with time to reflect, that the boxing side will share the same sentiments about these crossover fights?
It should. It should. I don't really have an issue with the. I mean, any of it really. I mean, it's just filling up a vacuum, right? But um, the entertainment fights, the Jake Pauls, dude. Once again, not only my wife, my son and my daughter were asking me about, and they're 9 and 6. They were asking me about Jake Paul fighting a guy. It's like, who is Jake Paul fighting? I hear Jake Paul's gonna fight. They're asking me about Jake Paul, right? So that speaks to his reach in
Jesus.
boxing. I know
Yeah.
this dude's everywhere. But as far as the crossover fight, I've never been for it. It does make, as a betting guy, it does make for an easy come up, right? Although Tyson Fury almost won that. Um, it's just it's the most senseless, pointless thing to me. And this whole MMA, this UFC versus boxing thing that they had going on for so long, like which is better, who would win, and what, that needs to go away. And I think it's slowly starting to deteriorate. But somebody who is good on the economic side of the in analyzing it on UFC and just combat sports in general brought up a great point. I was listening to an interview this morning. Wish I remembered the guy's name, but I didn't think it was going to come up. But he was basically saying that Ngannou wasn't a big draw in the UFC as far as bringing in a lot of pay-per-views. So he was sort of expendable for Dana White. Yeah, just go. We're not going to overpay you. So Ngannou comes over, and remember this fight with Fury took forever to make. Ngannou was laid up for 2 years, and the reason was apparently he couldn't find these big money fights. Ngannou coming over to boxing the way he did, it came from the Saudi side. Had the Saudis not had, basically, I think this guy is basically running a side hustle over there, is what it seems, in which he's not getting return on investment. There's no way Turki Al-Sheikh is getting return on investment for his product right now, but he's almost doing this as a hobby, it seems like, or for some other reason, to make these fights. And I think Ngannou was right place at right time. And I don't think these other UFC fighters are going to see those type of opportunities in the future. I just don't. I don't see it.
That. Yeah. I will say this, Calix. So this is totally anecdotal. And I was going to tell you this backstage before Valdez came on, and I didn't want to have this conversation while he's like back there. You know what I mean? Like, what's up, Valdez? Oh, by the way, I work today. But where I work, a lot of early 20s. A lot of 19-year-olds, like they that work there are hardcore like I would say that they're much bigger UFC fans than they are boxing for sure. Like it's Canelo, Tank, maybe, and that's about it when it comes to
Yep.
boxing. And Jake
Yep.
Paul, right? That's it. Believe it or not, Jake Paul is one of the three. What are you gonna do, right? But there was a little bit of a like boxing got a little bit like of a rub from these kids. Like a lot of them were they actually believed. And after the Fury fight, I don't know if you could blame them because not like they follow it like that, but they really believed that Ngannou was going to win this fight, and that because I still remember one of them told, I mean, he lost to that fat guy. Like, well, why can't Ngannou knock him out? Like, it's just the way they put it. Like, because little Andy Ruiz, they think Andy Ruiz was just some out of shape guy that showed up. Like, it is what it is. Like they don't know Andy Ruiz's pedigree, and they just know he's a fat dude. They know it was a late replacement. Maybe they got him from some local gym somewhere. But anyway, my point is, there was a little bit of for the first time in a long time, I feel like boxing got a little bit of like kind of like a cool factor.
You
Like,
think so?
oh, that was badass. He knocked out Ngannou. Like they were really impressed. Like
That was a beautiful knockout.
there were talent. Like I don't even know this stuff. Ngannou never even been hurt. Like he never even been knocked down in the octagon or anywhere by leg kicks or nothing. And
that's why a lot of even
gloves, you know?
Yeah, by the way, that's why a lot of even the boxing bettors were betting AJ decision because they've never seen Ngannou hurt. And obviously a lot of us faded that and bet the knockout, but I was at a neighbor's house last night. There was no boxing on last night, and they were watching UFC because that's what they do. And I didn't bring it up, and the topic just didn't come up. Now I don't know if they didn't watch it or if they don't want to talk to the boxing guy about the UFC guy.
If he knocked out Joshua, they would have brought it up.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Or maybe they just didn't watch it.
So it wasn't a topic of discussion. Yeah, maybe they didn't watch it. Who knows? But so I don't know.
Or maybe when things that are supposed to happen,
yeah,
it just is what it is, right?
And I agree with Dana. I mean, a lot of people don't like the messenger with Dana, but he brings up great points, and that's one of them. We don't need to see these fights anymore. And if these fights do come up, the boxers need to stop having this mentality that they need to make it look closer than it is and carry these guys, because just do what AJ did. Just ice them. Just ice them. Just get rid of them. And obviously they saw on film because they've been practicing that overhand, right? They were practicing on the mitts before the fight.
Wasn't it the same exact thing? Mm-hmm. Crazy.
And he turns on that beautifully. But the other thing I want to bring up real quick, because I didn't have a chance to go live last week. I don't know how much time I'm going to have this week. Got some stuff going on. But I love Canelo versus Munguia as far as a fight on the surface. There are a lot of nuanced things to talk about outside of that, of course, but you put the promotional stuff aside, you also put the Benavidez stuff aside, and duck, whoever's ducking, whatever. You put that aside, that's a hell of a fight, and that's going to make a lot of money. Mexico versus Mexico in Vegas, May 4th. The more I think about it, the more intrigued and excited I am for that fight, just because if you look at the stylistic angle from it, D-Style, I can see Munguia winning some early rounds as Canelo is economical, super economical early in fights, right? And then Canelo starts to, obviously, the experience and the angles show up, right? And he starts to take over the fight and piece up Munguia, right? We expect that to happen. But the interesting thing to me is, much like people were saying they don't see Ngannou getting hurt, do you envision a scenario in which Munguia gets knocked out? Because I don't know, but Canelo can possibly do that.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing to me right there.
Of course.
That's going to be one of those fights where it's just, you can't see it playing out either anyway, but leather being exchanged.
Of course. And that was the last thing I wanted to ask you about. Munguia, Canelo, it's official. It's set. Here we go. It's going to be on Prime and on the Zone, so they're both involved. No issue with it at all. I know a lot of. I'm going to talk about it later in the week, but I don't know what these victory laps that people take when the fight's announced on a certain network. Like, oh, I thought it was going to be on Prime, and they go for a victory lap. Like, what? Like, okay, or like, oh, I thought the zone wasn't going to be involved, and it took a victory. I don't know, man. The whole thing's weird.
That
And
fight's
those are,
gonna sell out within an
but real
hour, and
quick,
I'm telling you.
those are the same people that are always tweeting about, why do you guys care about what network it's on? And then that's your reaction instead of, oh, what a great fight. Oh, I thought it was going to be on Prime. I thought it was going to, like, who gives a shit? Anyway, but here's the thing. I agree with you. It's a sellout. T-Mobile Arena.
That's going over 20 million live gate.
I think that's
And
going over 22 million live gate.
from what people tell me, that's rich. That's a rich crowd. It's going to be a rich crowd. And I've seen the Canelo crowd in person a handful of times, and it's a rich crowd. And Munguia also is going to bring in a rich crowd.
Canelo's the main course, and the topping matters, right? So like this is like pepperoni pizza, like you know what I mean? Like this, that the topping is there, like it's going to deliver in terms of excitement. And I hope they put on. Look, PBC doesn't have a lot of dates, so I'm assuming we're going to have a great undercard. Like I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
Plus, with Golden Boy's involvement, I mean, we could see some
lower weight class action fights.
Yeah, like just give us good fights. Don't worry about the names or like Canelo selling the event. So you don't need to enhance this. What you got to do is give people a great night of fights and don't put Lubin on the undercard, okay? Because back to what Valdez was talking about, people were congratulating Valdez after a spirited effort against, Vaquero, right? Nobody was congratulating Lubin for anything, okay? Like all people said was, I don't know, I want to see this guy fight again. And I don't think he deserved to win. Put guys in there that are there to fight, and the message has to be clear. Go out there, give some great fights for the fans, and entertain. That's it.
Even if Munguia loses this fight, that's the beautiful thing about this is if Munguia fights the way we expect him to, it's not going to matter because his stock is going to go up with the public, right? Yeah. As long as he goes out on his sword, hey, he can even pull up if he pulls off an upset, then good Lord, now we've got ourselves a rivalry, right? Imagine if that happens, by the way, if we have ourselves, we thought it was going to be Canelo Benavidez rivalry. Imagine if Canelo Munguia turns into a rivalry. But the more likely scenario is Canelo takes over the fight as it goes on. But even if that's the case and Munguia is entertaining and he goes out on his sword or we have a lot of exchanges in this fight and it becomes a war, Munguia's stock goes up even in a loss. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, 100%. You know what I mean? I just think I'm looking forward to the actual fight, but I have to be honest. This doesn't mean I don't think it's a good fight. Or maybe it does mean that, but I just don't think Munguia has a shot in how to win this fight. Does he have a chance? Because anything could happen, of course. But I just really like this should be 6-1. At worst for Canelo odds.
It's 7-1 from what I saw.
Okay, there we go. So that sounds about right to me. And that's the type of fight it is, if we're honest, right? And if I was the odds maker, I'll put it at 8-1 to be honest with you. Like I just
really
think, yeah. I don't
6.5 to 1. So you were about right. 6.5 to 1.
Okay.
Minus 650. Yep.
So and I think the lines might get closer if people are like, hey, I like the odds, and that'll make the bookies maybe lowered a little bit. We'll see. But it should be very, very interesting. So look, plenty of time to talk about that, and plenty of time. And I want to cover the Parker fight more and all that, but that'll be it for this show. If you guys just tuned in, go back, watch the interview with Valdez, and you could always go to the archive. And we did the interview with Liam Wilson as well. We're going to see who wants it more. That's going to be a very intriguing fight. I can't wait to watch it. So with that said, this is D-Style Boxing. Any final words, Alex?
Nah, man, great show. Appreciate Oscar Valdez's time. Anytime you have any fighter really, but when you have a great fighter, former champion Oscar Valdez, spend some time with us. I always appreciate his time. So God bless him and his family and all that stuff. And that's going to be a great fight. It can't not 100%. Be a great fight.
Yeah, for sure. We could see that again. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing, guys. We're out of here. Peace.